What if I told you there are only 200 English words you need to know to get a 170 plus on the LSAT? You might think it sounds too good to be true, but mastering these specific words can mean the difference between 160s and 170s. If you're an international student, if English is not your first language, this might just be the most important LSAT strategy you'll ever hear. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now, I've spent years helping students, including international test takers, crush the LSAT. If English isn't your first language, you already know the challenges that vocabulary brings to the test. But the good news is that you don't need to be a walking dictionary to succeed. You don't need to memorize tons of flashcards. Today, I'll show you how to focus on just the most critical LSAT vocabulary. I'll give you a strategy to handle any tricky term the LSAT might throw your way. Now let's talk about why vocabulary is such a big deal on the LSAT. Of course, the LSAT is not testing how many fancy words you know. It's not a vocabulary test. Instead, it's testing how well you understand the precise meanings of common words in a legal and a logical context. Words like most, unless, and infer might be everyday words, but on the LSAT, they work in very specific ways. If you misinterpret them, you risk misinterpreting the entire question. This brings us to the critical terms system. The critical terms system is a focused approach to mastering LSAT vocabulary. It's all about prioritizing high-frequency words that appear again and again across both logical reasoning and reading comp. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding the language of the LSAT. Now, we can break down LSAT vocabulary words into three major categories. The first category is logical connectives and indicators. These are words like therefore, however, unless, and only if. And these words signal the structure of arguments. For example, if a question says the argument depends on the assumption that, the word depends tells you this is a necessary assumption question. Understanding these connective words is the first step to breaking down LSAT arguments. Now, let's talk about the second major category, quantifiers. Words like all, most, some, and none. These terms define the scope of statements. For example, the word most on the LSAT means more than half, but it could include all. It means more than 50%, but it could include 100%. This trips up a lot of test takers because in everyday life, we don't think about the word most functioning that way. The third major category on the LSAT is commonly misunderstood words. Words like infer, qualify, and consistent. These might seem simple, but their meanings on the LSAT can be tricky. Take, for example, the word qualify. In real life, it means to meet a standard, but on the LSAT, it means to limit or restrict a claim. If you miss this distinction, you might completely misread the argument. As for how to master the critical terms, context is key. The LSAT is designed so that you can infer the meaning from the context. For example, if you see the word extant, E-X-T-A-N-T, contrasted with extinct in a passage, you can figure out that it means still existing. You don't need to know this beforehand. You just need to read carefully. The LSAT, of course, is not a test of memorization, but for these critical terms, flashcards are really helpful. For example, for a flashcard with the word some, you would put on the back at least one, possibly all. Review these flashcards on a daily basis to build your familiarity with them. And also, learn actively. Whenever you encounter one of these critical terms in a practice question, underline it and think about how it's being used. The more you engage with these words, the better you'll get at spotting them under pressure. Now let's talk about how to apply critical terms to LSAT sections. In logical reasoning, let's say the argument said, if the company wants to increase profits, it must reduce costs. The phrase must reduce costs indicates a necessary condition. If you misinterpret that phrase, you might end up picking the wrong answer. In reading comp, you might see a sentence like, the author suggests that the theory is valid only if additional evidence is found. The phrase only if would set up a conditional relationship, meaning you need additional evidence for the argument to be valid, meaning additional evidence is a requirement for validity. Now, I know international students face unique challenges. English might not be your first language, and legal jargon can definitely feel overwhelming. But again, the thing is, the LSAT is not testing your vocabulary, it's testing your precision. By focusing just on the critical terms, you can level the playing field. Now, if you'd like my help on your journey to succeeding on the LSAT, to scoring a 170 plus, to mastering LSAT vocabulary, especially if you are an international student or a non-native English speaker, my team and I would be glad to help you out. At LSAT Unplugged, we offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching, and we have a wealth of experience working specifically with non-native English speakers. So if you'd like my help, you could check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. So before I go, here's the bottom line. You don't need to know every word in the English language to succeed on the LSAT. You just need to master the ones that matter. By using this critical terms system, you'll be able to tackle even the toughest questions. Remember, it's not about how much you know, it's about knowing the right things. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.